My name is Nicole Gfrerer. I grew up with dogs, so when I was about 5 years old, we had our first dog in a family, and I started doing agility with a dog when I was about 14 years old, and she was a shepherd, a Belgian shepherd, and that was also about the same time I fell in love with the American Staffordshire Terrier. So there I started, I had my own interest in dogs in general. So I started to look up some breeds, and when I met dogs, I became interested in how their character is and such things. And that's when I fell in love with the Amstaff. And since then, I just always tried to find out more about them and looked up breeders in my area. But it took nearly 10 years till I've been able to get an American Staffordshire Terrier on my own, because before there was not the right time for it. I knew these dogs would need time and space, and that I will do something with them. I always wanted to have a dog to do dog sports. So I knew while I've been to school and we had 3 other dogs at the time, it's just not the right setup for a dog. So it took some time till I knew now's the right time to get an own dog. And this was then when I moved with my boyfriend, and at first he didn't want an American Staffordshire Terrier, so I told him he had to pet one Amstaff, and then if he decides he doesn't want one, we'll look for another breed. But as I thought it would be, when he met them, he just fell in love as well as I did. Mm-hmm. And so we talked to a breeder, and she was the breeder of my first dog, Karma. Karma was a dog like one in a million. She was my dream. She was beyond everything I could imagine before. She's been close to me. She's been quite empathic and always wanted to do anything with her humans. So she loved to cuddle at home, and when you took her to dog school, or you took her for a walk, or you took her to the mountains, she's always been like, yeah, let's do something. But at home, this quite chilled, relaxed dog. Mm-hmm. So she was nearly perfect. And we had to let her go quite early because she's been sick. And that is how I got Tali, because it was clear we can't stay without a dog. Mm-hmm. And it was clear it has to be an Amstaff as well again. So we met Tali first time when she was 5 weeks old, I think. And there was this little dog, just like a terrier. She just showed what she wanted, and she's been this whole litter was playing and working, and she's been just within them and looked at me, and I knew she's the right one. Mm-hmm. And that's how I got her. And sometimes later she showed me she will be a good mother as well. So it was quite early, when she was about 10 weeks old, when she started to, when other dogs in the dog school in puppy class started to put up a fight, she wanted to separate them. And this was something she always did. She always got this behavior like a mother. Although she was a puppy herself, you just had this feeling. And so My best friend is a breeder. We talked about it and decided, okay, we will do a litter. I will move with Tali to her, and she was just such a good mother as I thought she would be. And that's how I became Sora as well. So Sora is the typical working dog.
Mm-hmm.
She's also nice at home. She also loves to cuddle. She loves to stay close to humans, and she's especially good with kids. She's quite soft with kids, but when it's about working, she just got fire. So now I have these 2 girls, and I will have my next litter, my first litter, within the next months. We're waiting for Tali to get in heat, and then I will have my first litter on my own. Tali is doing mostly rally obedience. It's a work where it's good for a round-off. You have to do some heel work, but not as long as in classical dog sports, but quite every about 10 steps you have to do something. And she's doing classic dog sports like heel work and things like that also, and blurt pole for hobby. And Sora is doing protection work with me. And I don't know the English word for it. It's called stöbern, looking for small objects, finding by nose work. This is both are doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like everywhere in Europe, if you do protection work with the dog for sport, you have to do classic Unterordnung and nose work as well. So Sora is doing this as well. And yeah, so quite a lot. But we are about 3 times a week in dog school most of the time. When I think about the Belgian Shepherd I grew up with, Mara was a great dog. I really loved her, but she was always like, she seemed like she had to do this. And if you have an Amstaff instead, it's like they don't need you. They're with you because they want to be with the humans. They're always like this, I work with you because I want to work with you. And if the Terrier doesn't want to work with you, it just doesn't do it. And I always loved this kind of feeling. This was one of the things that really fascinating me. This feeling they want to do this. And the other part is you can do anything with them. They will follow you to the edge of the world. They do anything for you. They will work for you. They will do sports. They will go, for example, canicrossing. Sora is doing this as well. But when you're at home, they just stop. And they can be relaxed, and they can be cuddle up with you and be happy with being close to you. And I really love this because I'm as well. I want to do something and then I want to calm down again. And they are just doing this with you. The American Staffordshire Terrier can be one of the strongest and one of the softest dogs at the same time. And I love this. I think no other dog can do this 2 sides just as soon as an Amstaff can do it. She, for example, Sora, when I do some protection work with Sora, she's really strong. You have to be very fast to work with her at a good level. And then I give my 6-year-old nephew the flirt pole, and she will work with him as well. And she will be soft, and she can let my niece, who is 2 years old, can let her win in tug of war. Mm-hmm. So she's stronger. But when she knows there's a human being that can't handle this strongness, she also can be soft as well. Mm-hmm. And this is what I love about the American Staffordshire Terrier. The history is, I would say it's a dark history, but it made up a lot of good things. The American Staffordshire Terrier originated. The dogs who became American Staffordshire Terriers were from blood spots. So they wanted to have a dog who is strong, who is independent, who also is brave. So they crossed terriers and bulldogs, and the bull and terrier started to exist. This was in England. They were very common in Staffordshire, so this is where they took the name later on. And when people moved to America, in Great Britain, the blood spots already had been banned, but in the USA they were still allowed. So the people took their fighting dogs with them, and there in the USA they started to separate. There was the American Bull Terriers, later on the American Pit Bull Terriers, and this was the breed still used to fight. And some other people say they didn't want to have the dogs in the pit any longer. They want this breed, but not for blood sports anymore. So they started to create their own breed, and this was the origin of the American Staffordshire Terrier. But it was first not called that way. It was called the Staffordshire Terriers, just short, when they became a member of the American Kennel Club. And later on, so the first standard was about 1936, and later on it was that the Staffordshire Bull Terrier and the American Staffordshire Terrier both were recognized from the American Kennel Club, so they had to give them two separate names so everybody would know which breed was meant. And this is the time where they became the name, but to this time there had been happening a lot to them, and we can see some characteristics that came from long ago when they were used for fighting. So, for example, the high tolerance about humans. So they later that days, fighting dogs were not as today used, and they didn't care if they die. They had to care for them. So it was important that the dog, even if it was hurted, still lets the human act on him and wasn't a danger for the humans around him. And this you can see till today. So they have a very high tolerance around humans, but they just don't like any other dogs. So you have some American Staffordshire Terrier who really love other dogs, but you can also have one who doesn't like other dogs. But all of them love humans. And this is the part that stayed from this time. They came back to Europe, like I said, as the American Staffordshire Terrier, so not anymore used for fighting in the 70s. And it took some more years till they came back to Austria, where I live. Now it is one of the 10 most common breeds in Austria.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, most people don't know this, but they're quite common here. most mixers, but we also have, if you think about how small our country is, we have quite a lot of breeders. When they took them to the USA, they took the dogs who were already mixed out of separate dogs. So we not quite know every dog who was used, because everyone wanted to have their own special recipe, you could say. So they didn't want anyone to know what kind of dogs they used. There were different bulldogs and different terriers. For example, we know that one of the dogs who is quite used in the Ruffian was the Blue Paul Terrier, but you can't say every dog who's used, because everyone wanted to keep it a secret what kind of dogs they use. So they don't wanted to know the other breeders who was the best fighter and who were which breeds would be the best combination to get a good fighting dog. Mm-hmm. When they came to the USA, they imported the dogs, and that was the reason they wanted to have an official breed and official pedigrees, because they wanted to have the dogs they had at home. Right. So when they started importing them to the USA, it's all sorry, in my English. It wasn't mixing anymore. Mm-hmm. The mixing was in Great Britain most of the time. I want to have a real terrier. So you should see there's a bulldog in it. You should have a big terrier, a strong terrier, but it still should be a terrier. So I'm looking for dogs who are compact, for dogs who seem strong for their highest, but still have a good movement, still can be fast, still interested still have interest to work, still have interest to go for some speed. Mm-hmm. Some American Staffordshire Terriers get quite big, mm-hmm. not in height, but I don't know the right word. They look more like a bulldog.
They look fat.
And it's okay that not all fat, but some are fat, yes. Some are. But some are getting more and more bulldog types. And I think in this way we shouldn't lose the terrier. Mm-hmm. It's okay that some like the bulldog types more, but when you want to work with them, you never want to lose the terrier, mm-hmm. because the terrier is the one who got fire. Mm-hmm. And I think this is the most the hardest part in breeding the American Staffordshire Terrier, to have this two kind of dogs and to find the balance between them. I don't want to go too far to the terrier as well, but I don't want to go too far to the bull terrier. Mm-hmm. So I am looking for, always find a male dog who is a little bit closer to the perfect American Staffordshire Terrier than my bitch. So, for example, Zora is quite sportive. Mm-hmm. She can turn on quite fast. So I'm looking for a dog who is still, who has the same qualities as her, but is a little bit calmer than her. So with her, I want to go a little bit more back to the bulldog. With Tali, I'm looking for some balanced male, because she's balanced as well. And that's the most important thing for me. When it comes to the looks, I like a typical head. So I think the head is the first thing that comes to the mind when you think about the picture of a perfect American Staffordshire Terrier. So most think about this typical head, and this is for me also something very important when I'm looking for dogs who are like. So I want to have the typical jaw. I want to have a dog who's got a big head, but not too big for the body. It should still be one picture fitting together. And the other thing is the angulations. Sorry. The American Staffordshire Terrier should have a good angulation. So this is very important to have this typical movement and to have a dog who's quite strong and muscled and still have a movement that's soft. Mm-hmm. So I also like to look at the angulations. My bitches, for example, have a good angulation at the rear, but the front, the shoulder is not perfect. So this is one topic for me. I want to have it a little bit better with every generation. And I also have this with Tali and Zora, because Zora is already a little bit closer to what I'm looking for than Tali was. And one thing that's very important for me is the pigment. The American Staffordshire Terrier should not have pink eyes or eyelids or a pink nose. And I want to have them really dark. So I want to have them a black nose and good eyes. So I think these are the most important things for me. But when it comes to the American Staffordshire Terrier, the thing you always have to look for is a dog who seems altogether fitting. So it's okay if he's 2 centimeters too high when everything is 2 centimeters too big. Then it's okay. Mm-hmm. But I don't want a dog to have a fully body and a small head. Mm-hmm. I don't want them to get higher and higher and thinner. So this is, for me, the thing I'm looking for is a dog who just seems to be good in itself, in the whole look. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is the character. It's just, like I said, some parts of the characteristics of the American Staffordshire Terrier come from a time we never want to have back again. We don't want to select our dogs like this anymore. We want never to be in the situation to have our dogs fighting, to choose which is the best and which still can handle distress and still be okay with humans. So we shouldn't lose this closeness to humans, because if we lose it, how will we ever get it back? So the characters, to have a brave dog, to have a dog who will follow his humans everywhere but still has its own head, this is the thing we should keep in mind when we have the American Staffordshire Terrier. Mm-hmm. They are terriers, they are dogs with their own thoughts, and if they don't want something, you can't make them do this. But if they like you, if they love you, they will follow you everywhere. They will do anything for you just because of this. And I think we shouldn't lose this. Some of them have a very high will to please. We should keep this in mind when we choose the dogs. In Austria, it's also so the dogs have to do a temperament test. So they are allowed to go in breeding programs. So the official thing most will know is HD, hip dysplasia. Uh-huh. So hip dysplasia is quite common for the American Staffordshire Terrier, and some think it's it's the best way to look at how you grow them up and how you care for them. And it's one important part, but the other important part is just breeding. And we are allowed to breed with dogs who have mild forms of hip dysplasia. So we have to be quite careful with these dogs. And I think the important thing about this is you can't just look at your dog and say, oh, I have a dog who's free from hip dysplasia, everything's okay. You have to look, what about the siblings, what about the parents? But this is, because everyone knows about this, I think it's a problem you can handle in the American Staffordshire Terrier. And still with mild form of hip dysplasia, they can have a great life. The same counts for elbow dysplasia. Sorry, I had to look this up as well. Elbow dysplasia is the same. We are allowed to breed with mild forms, and we should handle this with care. If we use dogs with elbow dysplasia, we have to really look what kind of other dog we use for this. In my line, the elbow dysplasia is not common. We have to look more for the hip dysplasia, but it's the same story and you have to be careful. I think the most terrible thing is the ataxia. It's an illness where they lose control about the cerebellum. It's the part of the brain which decides how a movement has to be done. How far away is a glass I'm trying to pick up? And with this illness, it's quite terrible because the dogs lose these feelings and they're healthy in their minds, but they can't move like they want. And it's becoming more and more terrible as they grow older, and you have to put down a dog who's clear in his mind but can't move as he wants. But the thing why official breeders can handle this is that we have DNA tests. So we can breed without ever having the risk of such a dog. But it's still a problem with people who don't care, who just breed for money and not with official standards, who just want to sell Amstaffs. There are still some cases of ataxia, and it's terrible. In FCE breeders, you won't find this anymore. In Austria, it is we have to do a DNA test, so we know that one litter can't have an affected dog. This is the most terrible health issue, but it's a health issue you can handle if you know what you're doing, and if you're doing tests when you don't know if the dog could be affected or could be a carrier. So I think we have a quite good solution for this in Austria. Then some areas say you should look for the heart, for heart problems. In Austria, we normally don't have heart problems, and it's not so that you have to look to have an ultrasound or something like that. So your dog is allowed to breed. What I'm doing is because I know in some other countries they have had problems with it, but I don't know any dog who is affected. I'm just doing an ultrasound from my dogs because I want to have it black and white on the paper, so I know they are healthy before they do sports and before they go into breeding. And the last problem is a problem many short-haired dogs have, allergies. So I don't don't think the American Staffordshire Terrier have more allergies than other short-haired dogs, but when a short-haired dog has them, they have no protection. So I know some American Staffordshire Terriers with allergies, but this is as well. Most problem is with bad breeding. So the official breeders with pedigrees don't have that much allergies, but like I said, there are a lot of American Staffordshire Terriers in Austria who are not bred good. They're just sold for money without taking care of the health. I had a dog like this at February this year because she was sold to a family which couldn't take care of her, so I took her and find her a new home. And these dogs are quite far away from the official American Staffordshire Terrier. They often don't look like ours. Mm-hmm. They just bred to be sold and nothing more, and they have a lot of allergies. So my dog, who was with me and now has a new home, didn't have them, but I know a lot. And I keep this in mind with the official breeding as well, because like I said, they're short-haired. So if they have allergies, it's something that really makes a lot of problems. And I also know some dogs who are from official breeders and have allergies and had them as well myself. So this is something we should keep up in mind as well, because the hard thing about this is we can't ask the other breeders to make a test so we know. Mm-hmm. We just know the dog has an allergy when it has it and we see it. I can't say, hey, I'm interested in your dog to have a breeding program with my bitch, and do you have problems with allergies? The other can say, yes, I have, and be honest, or could say, no, I don't have, and I can't see if that's right or not. So this is the hard part with this kind of illness. But like I said, I think it's more a problem in bad breeding the most, and in the official breeding, we have to be honest with each other and talk to each other to get to not get more allergies. Like I said, the American Staffordshire Terrier is an all-rounder, so you can do nearly anything with him. I know some therapy dogs who are American Staffordshire Terrier. I know some dogs who are doing protection work. I know some dogs who are doing search and rescue. And they love, like I said, rally obedience. Many M-Staffs love them. But there are also many M-Staffs who like to pull. So not only in the way that they do with weight pull, but also doing canicross or dog scooter, bike gearing. Mm-hmm. They like to go out in the wild. They like to be with families. So it's possible to go visit an American Staffordshire Terrier litter, and you have one dog who's perfect for protection work, and just the next dog is a perfect therapy dog. Mm-hmm. They can be nearly anything. You just have to be, you have to look at them open-minded and see what they can do. So there are so much possibilities. I don't think there are much breeds who are like this. It's hard to be the best at something with an American Staffordshire Terrier, because they're not bred to be just in one category. Mm-hmm. They're bred to be all-rounders, and you can do so much with them just because of this, and because, like I said, they do anything for the humans. So if you have fun in the work with them, it's okay to do anything. My younger dog, Zora, is quite good with nose working. So you could do with her, like we do, stöbern. She would be quite good for tracking, and she also would have a lot of fun with search and rescue. So you have to and her brother is mostly doing Euring. So he's doing canicross, which is not as fast because the human has to walk himself, but he's also doing scooter Euring, where he really gets quite fast. So they can do totally different sports. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest problems is that some people think they're like monsters. Some people think in Austria, some people are afraid of them just because how they look, and they even say things like they look grumpy, or they look like they're dangerous. And I think this is one of the biggest problems we have to face in Austria. We have some people who are afraid of them just because there was something in the newspaper about a dog who did something terrible, who bit somebody, and the people think they are aggressive against human. And like I said, it's the total difference. It's not as if they're okay with human. They really love them more than other dogs. They really, for most American Staffordshire Terrier, being with humans is the most important thing in their life. So that's a thing many people get wrong. But it's also the opposite. There are some people who think they are just the perfect family dogs as they are. So they think every American Staffordshire Terrier loves kids. Every American Staffordshire Terrier can be just nice. So we have two total different pictures of this dog, and the truth is somewhere in between. Uh-huh. The truth is they are great dogs, but they are strong. They are, like I said, they have their own head, and they are no monsters, but they're also not fluffy toys who you can say, oh, he has to do this because he's an Amstaff, he loves it. No, some Amstaff don't want to be hugged by children, mm-hmm. for example. And the biggest problem is you have these two categories, and both of them think they're right, and both of them like to discuss it, and both make a picture of the dog who's just that's just not fair, because a dog is a living animal. It has its own mind, and every dog is a little bit different. And so I always say I look at the dog in front of me, and what they all have in common is they should be brave. They should follow their human, but that doesn't mean that they have to accept anything, and that doesn't mean they have to be okay with some things, like, for example, getting hugged, have to be with kids close. My dogs love it, but this doesn't mean every Amstaff loves it. In Europe, there is sometimes this thing that the people call them nanny dogs, mm-hmm. and it's not okay to put them in this picture and say they have to be like this. So I think this concept of monster and the concept of the perfect family dog, both are not good for them. Both are not the truth, and both are not fair for the dog. And another thing I really hate when people think about Amstaff is that some say they have to, you need to have a strong hand to control an American Staffordshire Terrier. So some people are, they are like bullies to their dogs and say he needs to do it because he's an Amstaff. So they're not acting nice and violent, and say it's okay because he's an Amstaff and he needs it. And that's just not right. You have to be clear with an Amstaff. You have to educate your dog. You have to train your dog so it knows how to behave. But you don't have to be violent. You don't have to be hurt your dog to get it to do what you want. I'm doing protection work with Sora, and it's in the FCE. You have to do protection work with some sequences, and the dog is just allowed to bite in like a kind of sleeve. So this is quite controlled, and you have to do track working, and you have to do I don't know the word for it, where you have to do heel work and things like that.
Obedience?
Obedience, thank you. Obedience. So you have 3 categories, and the dog has to do every 3, so it's allowed to do a test. And we work, when we do protection work, we don't do it so the dog could really protect you. We do it for sports, and we work with bait. So the dog is not put into a situation where he feels uncommon and has to bite to get out of it. We are working out of bait. We are working out of fun for the dog. So I know some people are doing it different when they do this kind of sport, but I like this way the most because I think it's the dog feels good when doing the sport with me, and I'm feeling good as well. I don't want to teach the dog when we do this, he has to be uncomfortable, and then he bites, and then it will be better. You have this way of working with the dog where it's having fun. It wants to have the bait, and then you just use the bait in protection work. And when the dog feels good about this, then we're doing work where it won't feel that well anymore, where there's some sequence where the dog gets attacked, so where the dog has to stand up and is okay with someone being loud and going on for them, but we'll do this when the dog feels safe about the work. So we don't work for protection work like the dog could protect me in my home or something like that, or like police dogs. We're doing it just out of this special situation. And so it's a little bit different from a true protection dog, because it's more just this fun and bait side. And in Austria, in some areas, you're even not allowed to have a true protection dog. So you have to separate these two things in Austria a little bit, which is sport and which is actually protecting.
Right.
I like when you have Belgian Shepherd, for example, they got very high drive and they really total into work, and that's good. I love this. But I know many dogs who have a problem with coming down again, or a problem with letting go the bait, to leave from the bait. And in this kind, the American Staffordshire Terrier, most American Staffordshire Terriers I know, they do quite easy with letting go. So this is one of the parts I like about them. They have a high drive as well. They can go for it as well. But I know many American Staffordshire Terriers who calm down much more easier. And this is one of the parts I like about them. To be honest, the best working dogs I know are Shepherds. But I don't want to just work with them. I want the dog to be with me in my family as well. I want the dog to, when we go out, Sora is showing her bait to everyone who's standing outside, and she would give it to anyone who's outside. And if there's a little kid standing, she would bring the bait to this kid as well, and yoo-hoo, let's play again. And this is the part I really love at them. And some Shepherds are like this as well, but the American Staffordshire Terrier is more. So nearly every Amstaff I know is like this. But just some Shepherds are like this. And this is one of the things I love at the American Staffordshire Terrier. And it's a little bit also which line you prefer, because there are lines who are which are much better at working the minds up. So the Ruffian and White Rock, which I have, they're not just for working. They, like I said, a little bit of rounder. So there would be some lines which are more working dogs, which have a higher drive. And the other thing I really love at the Amstaff, if they have it, not every Amstaff has it, but many have a high will to please. So they give you the feeling they just want to do this to, so you like what they are doing. They are like, have I done this right? And let's do it again. And these things I love when working with them. There are some dog schools in Austria who still think that doing protection work with American Staffordshire Terrier will make them aggressive. But the people I know, the people with which I'm doing some trainings or which I meet at seminars, I don't know if this is the right.
Yeah.
They are not like this. So I know some people who are training protection work and are breeding Shepherds themselves, and they never had any problem when I said I would be interested in doing this with my Amstaff too. So there are many people who say it's a sport you can do with any dog, and it's okay to do it with our breed as well. But there are some people, even in this area, who have the problems with an American Staffordshire Terrier doing protection work, and even some dog schools say that they are not allowing American Staffordshire Terrier in any sportive area. So I even know people who've been told they are not to join puppy class with their American Staffordshire Terrier. It's most of the people are okay with it, but some still have this prejudice against the breed.
Right.
And you feel this in dog sports as well. I'm thinking about with Tali to do the the test for a therapy dog.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking about doing this with her because she, like I said, they're so close to humans. So I think about doing this with her for sometimes in the last year. And now I want to take a look at it and talk with a trainer in this area if she would be good for this. And if she thinks Tali suits this work, I'm thinking about doing this, but still do dog spots with her as well, because I think she's a dog who needs both. So I don't think she would be happy with just being a therapy dog or just being a family dog.
Mm-hmm.
She loves being a family dog, but she needs something else. So it would be something we do next to the things we're already doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with Zora, I think about doing scootering as well, because she has so much fun with doing this pool work. But at the moment, we have a lot to do with the things we're already doing, so it's just not enough time for it. But I think she would love it. I think it's important to have some exchange, because I love many American Staffordshire Terriers in the USA.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good to have some imports. But at the moment we have in Austria we can't use frozen semen from the UK that easy. So I think the exchange would be the best if it's possible. Mm-hmm. But I also love many Austrian American Staffordshire Terriers. Mm-hmm. And I like some Italian, which are breeding ruffians, quite good. And I also love some from the Netherlands. So the father of my litter will be from the Netherlands. And for me, it's more important to take a look at the line. So like I said, I'm breeding ruffian and white rock dogs. So I want to have the right line, breeding line. And there would be some really great dogs in the USA I'd love to use. Mm-hmm. But it's the problem with the different distance between us.
Right. Yeah, for sure. What is your favorite little small lap dog?
The French Bulldog.
yeah.
I love French Bulldogs. I love how they act with humans. I love how they read humans. Uh-huh. It's like a little bit like the American Staffordshire Terrier. They're reading humans like an open book, and I really love this. Yeah, they are quite fun. I know one French Bulldog who's living with American Staffordshire Terriers, uh-huh. because it's owned by the daughter of an American Staffordshire Terrier owner, and she's quite cool. Yeah. She's a really brave dog with between these big dogs, and she's in there and she's the big chef.